Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something clicked.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
It's funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Yeah, so I was out on a walk last night, and I kind of had this recurring thought that I should get in touch with my ex-girlfriend. And I've had that ever since we stopped seeing each other 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just this recurring thought. And so I was like, okay, time for a round table. So I just let all my parts speak. And, I heard different voices saying, we should totally get back together. Or get in touch with her is what I mean by that. Get together. And, we've changed a lot. We're more mature. We can handle it. It would be really interesting to see her from this new perspective. And, maybe something sexual could happen. That'd be fun. Or maybe we could have interesting conversations with her now that both of us have grown more. And then other parts were like, are you effing kidding me? This woman destroyed your self-esteem and you want to put your exiles around her?
Yeah.
You must be out of your damn mind.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of going back and forth and letting everyone speak. It was just absolutely fascinating how many different varied perspectives there were.
Yeah.
And I would say that it felt like there was at least 4 or 6 distinct takes on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of started angling in to see what are the exiles that would be vulnerable if I were to get together with her?
Okay.
And the one that came up for me was a part of me, and I already did kind of a lot of the work, so that's why I'm giving such a big rundown. But I found that, there's this part of me that feels like I'm a loser.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm really embarrassed and ashamed of what a loser I am.
Yeah.
And I remember the time I felt it the most powerfully was towards the end of the relationship. I was just feeling really insecure, and I just told her, I need you to say verbally to me that you care about me, that you love me, that you respect me. And then she's like, out loud? And I was like, yeah, and so she said them all out loud while making eye contact with me. And then I felt like such a total loser after I had asked her to do that. I felt so embarrassed.
Yeah.
That I was so needy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I said, well, I also need you to say that you don't think I'm a loser, which of course it just kept getting that.
Yeah, I
worse.
can see the trap that you're in there. It's now I feel bad about that. So yeah, if you're turning to her to help with that, I can see that being kind of never ending.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those mental spirals.
Sure.
Where you just keep making yourself more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then more embarrassed, and there's no way out except to just stop. And I was mortified after that, you know? And I had already felt like a loser around her, not just because I was so insecure and needy, but also because she was much more highly functional in life, productive, creative, very disciplined, musically talented, so many things, you know. And so I just kind of always felt this really painful comparison around her. And then to kind of vulnerably want her love and not get it was just too much, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I started talking to this part of me that feels like a loser, and asked him like what his experience was, what his take was on it. And he basically told me that it was like an self-evident he's a loser, and he couldn't really point me to any specific evidence that that would. Let me put it this way: he could point to a bunch of reasons why I'm a loser, but if I invalidated any of those reasons, it still didn't matter. He still knew that we were a loser.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
like it didn't help. The evidence approach didn't do anything.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, even if I'm not ugly and I'm not stupid and I'm not too needy and like all that stuff, like I still know that I'm a loser.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't even know why he knows that, but he does, you know. And then he showed me this image of my father looking at me with such. Okay, so one time I forgot my shoes at this club that we were a part of. I was maybe 7 or 8 or 9, and I forgot my shoes by the pool, and we got all the way out to the car, and then I realized I forgot my shoes. And my dad looked at me like I was the stupidest person who ever lived. And like he hated me. And honestly, the look was like rage and disgust. And it was just really ugly, you know?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that because my dad looked at me in such an ugly way, it made me feel that I'm ugly. So kind of not even in the sense that I'm ugly in terms of attractiveness, like in a aesthetic way, but like I'm ugly.
Yeah, to the core.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing that I kind of explored like was what are you afraid would happen if you didn't believe that we were a loser? And he goes, well, if we didn't believe that we were a loser, we would put ourselves out there, and then a girl might think that we're that there's something wrong with us, and then reject us. And I said, well, you know, what are you afraid would happen if a girl rejected us? And then he goes, well, she would tell everyone what a loser we were.
Yeah.
You know, and she would tell everyone we were like, you know, something like a creep or a weirdo or a loser or a freak. And then we would be socially ostracized by everyone ever, you know? And it's like our shame would be public, and everyone would look at us through that lens of shame and that I'm gross or something, you know?
Yeah.
So I got that, you know, I couldn't really bring myself to ask, what are you afraid would happen if everyone looked at you like you were disgusting? Because to me, that is the final punishment, you know?
Yeah.
So I wasn't really sure where to go from there. But I was tired.
Certainly,
so I thought we could talk about it today.
You've done a lot. I mean, that's that's great that you've been able to have all those conversations.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I have some questions that might help.
Okay.
I'm curious about the part that says you're a loser, does it have an age? Do you detect?
Yeah, I think he's 13.
Mm-hmm. So that would be probably, I don't know, I would use that information about the age of this part, the age of the 7-year-old who forgot the shoes, maybe asking the 13-year-old if he's connected or protecting the 7-year-old, just kind of focusing on the ages.
That makes sense.
And your own age, your own present day age, just working with those things.
Mm.
And I would also, my approach would be to treat these parts as exiles and to go through more of an exile unburdening than compared to the kind of protector negotiating, if you will.
That makes sense. Yeah, I did feel like I had really easy access to these exiles for whatever reason, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And then I did let them, I didn't talk to the 7-year-old at all. But the loser part I did talk to, and I let him know how old I was. Which he was surprised by. And then I kind of described to him how it's different to be 28 than it is to be 13. How it's similar, but there are also things that are different, you know? And he seemed kind of relieved. Not fully relieved, still very cautious about life, but happy to know that I'm making progress and that his 13-year-old world is not all that exists, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, feel free to take the reins and ask questions directly, and I'll go along for the ride.
Is there one of those parts that you think feels like it needs your attention most to start with?
I actually feel an angry part come up when you ask that. And I'm tempted to blow past it, but I'd rather see what's going on with this anger. What was your question?
The question was, do you feel like one of these parts needs your attention most or to attend to first in this conversation?
I heard the angry part say, that's a stupid question.
Yeah.
But by the time he said that, I couldn't remember what the question was.
Well, I might have said it. I mean, I kind of stumbled through it, so I might have definitely asked it in a stupid way, but I'm definitely
No.
I'm definitely open to examining, if the question was stupid. Let's talk about it.
That's funny. I'm sure he appreciates that. The sense I get is that he doesn't actually necessarily think it's a stupid question. It's more like a very young part who's being defensive for some reason. So I'm going to check in with him on that. Is there anything he wants me to know? Yeah, he's just saying this process is bullshit and we don't know what we're doing. Sure. That's great. Yeah. But I can feel that he's concerned.
Yeah. So
like
valid concerns.
Yeah. What I'm getting from him is that it's vulnerable to talk on the phone with someone that you've just met. And that these things are complicated, and neither of us are therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think what's interesting is that, like, when I first started IFS, even with a therapist, I felt like, is this working?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Or are we wasting our time and going in circles? And then that went away as I built confidence with my particular therapist, but also just IFS in general working. Yeah. And I think that the part that felt that concern is now back because neither of us are therapists.
Sure. Just letting him know that I appreciate his concern. Like I genuinely do. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I'm asking what he's afraid would happen if you and I worked together today. He's saying you're going to upload this and my ex-girlfriend's going to hear it. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Which I feel blended with that concern. Mm-hmm. That this podcast will expose my shame and immortalize it. Yeah. Yeah. Got those parts too. Yeah, sure. And of course, we don't have to publish anything. We don't have to use your name. Nothing has already been published that you and I have talked about. So that's something I wanted to clear up with you, is that I have a part that feels like if you're going to give your time to me, I owe it to you to let you upload it. Yeah. And also that it would jeopardize our burgeoning friendship if I said no. Yeah, that's, wise part. No, this is, I need to practice this. This is like, I want to be good at IFS and I need to practice with people. So that's my main reason for doing this. Putting it anywhere publicly is kind of just an experiment. It's because I hear that that's a good idea for things, and I feel like if I didn't record it, it could just be lost. It's kind of like, well, if I don't capture it, then I'll never capture it, and if I do, maybe something might help someone. So it also kind of lights a fire for me in just taking it seriously and like, I don't know. I want it to be a project. It's a project and it's my top project instead of just like, hey, this could be a neat thing. It's like, oh, I totally get that buy-in effect. Yeah. That's cool. And I honestly, I think most of my parts, or the parts that I tend to agree with maybe, are very open to sharing and being vulnerable. Yeah. And then I've got a couple parts that are like, bro, like in this age of the internet, like anything you upload can and will be held against you. Yeah. In a court of public opinion. Seriously. Yeah. So, and so I don't know. I guess we can continue to talk about that. Yeah, you can. Of course, you have my permission to record all of our conversations. Yeah. And this might not mean anything, but I'm also willing to unpublish stuff. I know that part might say, well, yeah, but now it's been captured. It's out there. Like, it can never be unpublished, but it's like, well, we could. Yes, if someone wants to make a copy of everything, I'm sure that it's somewhere, but I'm not opposed to retroactively unpublishing something. Cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. I ended up on some other podcasts where we sympathized with Hitler. Oh, yeah, there you go. And then they put my name in the description of the podcast, and I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah. So. Anyway,
I won't give any more context to that, even though I need to.
Hey man, there's no bad parts, right?
Yeah. We were just looking at the causes of people acting psychopathic or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, let's dive back into it. I think my angry part is feeling heard. Let me just check in with them. Yeah, my angry part just feels angry that I think what he's basically saying is like IFS takes a lot of internal effort. And if we don't know what we're doing, it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
And he's like preemptively pissed off that we're wasting energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a valid concern. Yeah, and you might want to kind of think about like what is your budget for internal effort? You know, when do you throw in the towel? When do you like how much is the right amount of energy to give something like this? You know, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And what's your budget for patience with it?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me ask him what he thinks about that. So he's just saying that we should be napping and watching TV and really resting today, which I super sympathize with, and I think there's some truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's a long day, and that this little session isn't really that big of a deal. See what he thinks about that. Yeah, he's cool as long as I really get some rest today. And he's kind of skeptical that we're not going to use a ton of energy right now. But he's willing to give us some space.
Yeah, and you can always come back in if you're getting too drained by the conversation. Like he can pop back in and say, "All right, that's we don't need to go that far today. We don't need to go that intense today, or whatever."
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's kind of a war between managers, right? Like he wants to save my energy, and I can feel why. In my body, I can feel the tiredness. And yet, I have these other managers that are like, yeah, but what a cool opportunity to work with James. And also, we really do want to like do some work on this stuff with, now you know her name, with this girl. And, we have unlimited energy for things that we care about. Come on, A bit of a polarization there.
I just noted the timestamp of the recording so I can take out that person's name for you.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering. Yeah.
And you can also make requests like that. If you want to cut something specific out ever, you can do that. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I think in order to honor both parts, what I'll do is we can have this session, and then afterwards we'll really think about some ways to enjoy leisure for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said something about a friendship, and I just want you to know, and anyone to know, like, I mean, you're doing IFS. That's so cool, and I admire that. And like, I don't really expect anybody to want to continue doing that with me specifically. So like,
right.
I
see what you're saying.
I don't expect us to like have these calls forever.
Yeah. It wouldn't be like a relational break.
I still think you're a cool dude.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. You're cool too. End podcast.
There you
go. No. Yeah. So the question was, which of these parts feels more urgent to work with?
Yeah.
7-year-old or the one who feels like a loser?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
They both feel so important. I feel some avoidance about the 7-year-old. Like, it's such a tender little part.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also feel a tremendous compassion for the 13-year-old who is so scared of women and judgment that he was just suffering all the time.
Yeah.
And has been this for, these 15 years since he was 13. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Unless you have a clarifying question, I would say I don't know.
Yeah. I'd probably start with the 13-year-old.
Yeah, he's a little older and a little less vulnerable. So
that's my reasoning. Just less vulnerable.
Okay. Yeah.
Are there parts that come up that have any? Are there any other parts that would have concerns about you working with this part that need to raise their objections or concerns?
Sensing a part that's like maybe 15 or 16 years old, and it's saying that this 13-year-old is a little bitch. And like, he needs to stop being so sensitive and just get the fuck over it so we can have sexual relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 16-year-old part is very impatient with the part that feels like a loser. He's like, get your shit together or just shut. Can I curse on here? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, he's like, can you just like get your shit together or shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Like one or the other, because we got to get a move on. Like, this is such a teenager part, he just wants to have sex. He doesn't really care about relationship. He doesn't care about intimacy. He just wants to get laid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 13-year-old part is so vulnerable that he's just mucking everything up with his insecurities,
Mm.
And that's why he calls him a little bitch, because it's like this 16-year-old's role is basically to disconnect me from all of my insecurities so that I can get what I want, which in his eyes is sex.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm familiar with these parts. I just haven't talked with them like this, so this is cool.
Yeah.
I can feel that the 16-year-old has a lot of contempt for the 13-year-old. Sees him as like an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And what's actually interesting is that he looks at the 13-year-old with a similar contempt that my father looked at me as a 7-year-old.
Interesting.
Like, you stupid fucking idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
How could you be such a needy little bitch? I know I'm cussing a lot. This
it's okay.
is just authentic for me.
It's really fine.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And how do you feel towards that 15, 16-year-old part?
So I must be blended with another part here because I feel like he's like being a rude asshole. And I don't really care for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel an urge to call him a bitch just to make him get his comeuppance for being so rude and mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't expecting that. It's interesting. Yeah, and I'm sensing that that's actually like a 17 or 18-year-old part. Man, this is so interesting. Because when I was 17 or 18, that's when I started to kind of lean more into being more mature and less carnal and Christianity. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just bettering myself in a way that was where I kind of, judged my previous behavior for being so.
Yeah.
I'm using the word carnal, even though it's a bit of a religious word, but I think you know what I mean by
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So do some fornicating.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see the very linear progression of the ages of these parts.
Yeah, the way that they're all built on top of each other and in reaction to each other.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about. I observed as I got older that I was becoming less happy.
Yeah.
And that my inner world was becoming more complicated. And I think that's true because what was happening as I grew up was that I would make one choice of how to be, and then another part of me would feel ashamed of that and do the opposite. And then another part would observe that and try to find some kind of middle ground. And so then it just, all these parts are getting stacked.
Yeah. It's like a fractal kind of thing where you're getting more and more feedback, multiplying times more and more feedback.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. Until you've got these like multi-layered polarizations that are just kind of constantly echoing.
Yeah.
This is cool. Fractal, man, what a great way of putting it.
Yeah, well, and zooming inward, it's like, well, parts have parts, and and maybe we're all just parts of the species. And
I know. I'm actually kind of grateful that I'm not a part within my system. It's cool to be a whole human being here.
Yeah.
But I know that I am part of the greater whole yet.
That 16-year-old part.
So okay, thank you. Yeah. So I am a little bitch.
Right.
Maybe I feel more compassionate towards a 16-year-old now.
Yeah.
And
I bet if you learned about
I just kind of wonder what's wrong.
And what does he really want? I mean, you said all he wants is sex, and I'm not gonna say that's not true, but like what to just really lean into that and to be like, okay, what's that about? Like, what does it really mean? Where does that really come from? To understand that deeply.
Yeah. Well, before I talk with him more directly, I just want to describe him a little bit.
Sure.
And I feel like he has this rage. And almost like this is another thing where I'm like, I'm not wanting someone listening to this to get the wrong impression of me, but like it's like an incel, you know, that incel rage, that like almost murderous, like fuck everyone.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna get my goddamn needs met.
Right.
Yeah, like, oh, women don't want me. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna be exactly what they think they want.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be so fucking inauthentic, you know, and I'm just gonna get my fucking needs met,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, inauthentic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like you talk about rage, and I think about like violence. You know, that's often another like direction. It's like, okay, well, that strategy didn't work. Like, kind of becoming violent is like I mean, people do that. It's a common kind of reaction.
Yeah, and this part is like merged on that. Like, I know that with my balance of parts, I would never actually do that. But like this part in particular does carry that energy.
Yeah.
Like, luckily we're attractive enough, you know, that like he can hold on hope that we can get our needs met without escalating further, you know?
Yeah.
I feel really uncomfortable talking about this because it does make it sound like I'm someone who might do something like that. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But
yeah. I mean, I don't think so at all. And I think that, you know, I have that part too, and I'm not sure I've met someone who doesn't. I mean, it's obviously not something that we talk about. It's like, that's antisocial. That's bad, right? And worse than bad, it's like, you know, we're told that's what's wrong with all of society, is like, you know, men's drive for sex,
gaze.
basically.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a sticky subject.
Oh God. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you for destigmatizing it there. That was actually really helpful. You know, come to think of it, all the guys I know do have that part. At least I've perceived it to varying degrees. And I think another thing about this part is like, I had like a sexual fantasy a little while ago that just popped into my head, and it was like, if this part could have sex, he would like squeeze a girl so hard, like in this weird mixture of sexuality and rage, you know?
Yeah.
That it would be like dangerous how hard he would squeeze her.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Again.
So we can definitely get to know this part a little better now that I've kind of laid a little vision of him so far. And just
to recognize the commonality in that kind of, I mean, if you look at whether it's fiction or nonfiction, or like wherever you look at depictions of sex and stuff, I mean, there's pretty much always some form of power or you know, I mean, how often is there some degree of pain with the pleasure?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, you know, and that's actually one reason I don't want to meet up with my ex-girlfriend, is because I feel that if we even did end up hooking up, that this aggressive part would find his way to blending with me and just make it like a weird experience. Not that it would actually be like dangerous in any way, but just like I wouldn't have the enjoyment, and neither would she, that I was hoping for. Like it would turn into more of a sado, whatever bullshit, you know. I'm not really that into that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So
this is so interesting.
So yeah, just learning more about this part, what that need is about, and really, I think the goal is to kind of come to appreciate its intention.
Just letting him know that I'm here to listen.
Yeah.
And he's saying that no one listens. No one cares what he thinks or what he wants. And that he ought to just kill them. Yeah. He's, you know.
I would say just kind of go with that. Go with he's brainstorming, like let him be creative. Like what else does he want to do in his perfect world? Okay, killing them is one thing on the list. Like what else? What else? Just to hear it all.
Yeah. Well, his language is like, he would get rid of my family and just fuck the shit out of a bunch of beautiful women and then discard them. Like King Solomon or something,
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like his vision is like this wasteland of an empire that's just like, there's nothing to it. It's just like a desert and beautiful women and him,
Yeah.
Which is kind of, some part of me is just like disgusted by that
Maybe,
idea. But,
and try to ask that part to step back.
Okay.
It's because you're describing a desert, but a land of 100 virgins, like that's life. Also, that's.
How do you mean that's life?
Well, he was talking about having sex with everyone. That's a creative act.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Interesting.
That's populating the desert.
Like the land of 100 virgins. Is that an actual like myth or something?
I mean, no, but it's he's not the first person to have that thought.
No, yeah, it seems almost archetypal. Yeah, like an archetype. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the disgusted part is steps back. Yeah, and his other thing is like he wants to shame women through sex. I don't want to get graphic, but just doing things to make them feel shameful.
Yeah.
As like a revenge thing, like revenge porn.
Yeah.
Which is actually a real genre.
Yeah.
Like hate fucking,
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of humiliation kind of stuff.
Again, that's the
involved
word, humiliation.
In it.
Yeah, so for him, it's like we've been so unwanted or rejected, and
he's felt humiliated.
The females in our lives, yeah, or some of our parts have. I'm not sure, and so he's just like, let's just flip the script. Instead of being weak and needy and humiliated, let's just, fuck shit up.
Yeah.
He's tired of being a little bitch.
Yeah.
There is something very humiliating about, wanting a girl like innocently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it doesn't work out, and then you feel like super exposed that you wanted her and she doesn't want you. For me, I can speak for my 13-year-old part. Like it made me feel so small, so embarrassed.
Yeah.
I could totally see the 16-year-old just wanting to be the untouchable, invulnerable fuck boy.
Yeah. So just again, I'm leaning towards like appreciation. Just show him that you get it, but not only do you get it, it's like he's trying to protect that 13-year-old. He's trying to keep that. He's trying to keep that feeling from happening.
Yeah. Oh. I've got a part coming in right now that's afraid that all this therapy is going to lead to me having sex, which will lead to humiliations and exiles getting hurt, and that this will open up my vulnerability again.
Well, I mean, there's what we talk about, and then there's what you decide to do out there in the world.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm letting this part know that. Well, first of all, he heard you, but I also wanted to know that not only can we decide later what to do,
yeah,
but I plan on taking everyone into account when we do make our decision.
Yeah.
And also, if things go poorly, I know how to be here for everyone in a way that I didn't know before.
Yeah. Can I share an analogy that just came to my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember I was talking about a dojo?
Yeah.
In a dojo, like these samurai, they leave all their armor outside and they wear like robes inside. They're completely
like a gi.
Yeah, they're completely unarmored inside.
Hmm.
And then when they go back out, they pick up their armor, and that's kind of like a special place for them to
I see what you're saying. So we're being vulnerable here, but that doesn't mean we can't keep our armor on as long as we feel the need to.
Yeah.
Out in the world.
Yeah.
What a nice thought. You know, I definitely had some parts that felt like we should never be armored. You know, but recently I realized, you know, this world is worthy of some armor. You know,
Yeah.
It's not wrong for us to armor up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me check in with my 16-year-old and see if he's getting that I appreciate him. He could almost take in my appreciation, but either he or someone in the same cluster of parts feels very ashamed of his humiliation fantasies.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know that I have many more words to say concerning that. He just feels very, like, disgusted by himself. Like, he almost doesn't understand exactly why he does that, you know? And he just feels like once you've had those fantasies, it changes you forever, you know, and it makes you bad.
And how do you feel like learning that he feels that way? How do you feel about it?
I feel scared that he's right. So maybe I'm blended with him or with another part.
Yeah, that would indicate that to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'm scared that he's right. Yeah, we're kind of fucked now because we've had humiliation fantasies towards people in our lives, and now we're the scum of the earth, you know?
Yeah.
Like if anyone found out, they would be right to be disgusted by us and to like never talk to us again.
Yeah. But just between you and that part,
Mm-hmm.
You know, is that like something that you can hear and you can say, I get it. You know, we don't have to share with the world that probably would, you know, not take kindly to that or would push back on that. But is there a part of you,
Yeah.
or
So
is there yourself that can say, I get it?
So what's interesting is I consistently, especially when it comes to shame, I have this part that feels like it says to me, I don't really care if you accept me because you're not who I need acceptance from.
Okay.
Right? He basically just says like, there's the world, there's my future girlfriend or spouse, and I really couldn't give two shits if the self accepts me.
Yeah, there might be like a notion of the self as like something else.
Interesting. Like a self-like part.
Like a self-like part. Where it's like, no, I'm not talking about that self accepting you. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about this heart, this feeling that I have right now that I can turn on and that is on and that does accept you, you know, and just showing the part that directly. It's not a hypothetical, it's not a theoretical, it's not something you have to sell to the part. It's like you can show it right now and say, how is this? And if you don't like it, what can I do differently? Like how can I get to know you, and how can we communicate
Yeah.
better?
So I'm actually like, as you're speaking, first of all, I conceptually totally understand what you're saying. I want to validate that. But as you're speaking, this rageful part has come up that is so furious that this fantasizer part has ruined us forever.
Yeah.
With its fantasies.
Yeah.
And he's like, thanks a lot for making us unlovable. Like you really shit the bed. Yeah. Which I used to experience as a self-hatred, but now I'm experiencing it as like an internal drama between the 16-year-old and this hateful part.
Yeah, that's a powerful shift.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So yeah, and you can communicate that with the 16-year-old part and say, look, I'm seeing in real time how these other parts are hard on you. I'm seeing that you're not being listened to and you're being shouted down.
Not sure why that released a lot of somatic energy that I'm kind of working through my body. Yeah. Something about unblending from the judgment.
Well, I think we're also, this part was saying, well, or some part was saying, I don't care if self accepts me. And I think that this is just more of like staying with that part and showing it what that looks like as some other part tries to come in, or as some other thought or some other humiliating whatever comes in, and just saying, okay, like, again, even just for 5 minutes, if I'm here and I'm showing you that listening and that love, like, what's that experience really like for the part?
Yeah, like trust building. Yeah, I'm gonna start speaking out loud just to help me not drift off. It's just speaking to the 16-year-old. Man, a lot of parts activity right now.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like seething and yawning and laughing and relief and tension, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, so, I just want you to know that I really care for you and that there are other parts that have been really hard on you, like James said, and I've hated you and shamed you and wish that you never existed and all these really kind of things that seem really mean. And I'm sorry that you've been through that because I know your intention is not to upset anyone or to make anyone feel bad or anything. You've just been trying to get our needs met. Granted, it's been a little extreme, but I still love you just because of who you are. I don't really care how extreme you are. I still love you. Mhm. I'm happy to get to know you. You think it'd be a good time to ask me if there's anything else he wants me to know?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like me to know? Well, I feel a lot of his rage, and he's just saying that like women are stupid bitches and cunts, and that they're. I think I'm laughing in order to show you that I'm a normal person still, even though I'm expressing these things, and I'm saying that so that I can stop.
Sure. But he's
And
allowed, he's allowed to feel that way.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to fix that about him.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's cool. Yeah. Interesting.
Like the 4-year-old part, my 4-year-old part, like just wants to eat ice cream or whatever. It's like, that's fine. It's okay for him to want that. And it's okay for the 16-year-old part to just want to fuck or just want to kill or whatever. It's like that primal emotion is okay. He's allowed to feel that way. And we can appreciate those feelings.
Okay, great. Well, here, let's go, baby. Yeah, he wants to like he said, like fuck the shit out of girls. He thinks they're stupid cunt bitches or judgmental and vapid and stupid and rude, critical, heartless, shitty, remorseless, lacking all compassion. Like they're just these stupid fucking bitches. They don't care about anyone but themselves and their own pleasure and their own fucking appearances. But anything good about them is on the surface because they don't develop their souls. They're just fucking shitty people.
Yeah.
And I'm actually hearing him say like they're fucking evil. Like they're bad fucking people.
Yeah.
And our culture is full of them.
Yeah. And are you okay hearing him say all that?
Yeah, I am. Now that we've removed so much of the stigma.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just saying they're ugly. Even if they look pretty, they're ugly. And he's really sick of us caring what they think.
Yeah. It's affecting him on so many different levels.
Yeah. I'm even seeing these like horror images of like women transforming like in an old 80s movie or something.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a lot to navigate.
Yeah. They'll eat your soul, you know, they'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
It really goes back to like that I don't trust women in general. I have some cool, like some really awesome relationships with some girls. Some of my parts do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this underlying distrust of women, and I think a lot of it lays right here with this part.
Yeah, sounds like it. And I think that again.
Have you seen the movie It or The Thing?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to know if you. Okay.
Yeah, I would just stay with that and just stay with trying to just listen to that without the judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and to again appreciate it for what it is, whether it's protection of other parts that don't want to be humiliated, whether it's natural and confusing urges that aren't any of our fault for being in the system, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just stay with it. And
he's mad because he's wanted to fuck for so long. I'm actually a virgin.
Okay.
I've had some foreplay, but that's it. And yeah, he's just pissed off. You know, he's just like other people can have this in their life. You know.
Yeah.
I got to think about it and talk about it for 28 years. What is happening?
Yeah.
You know. Also, let me know when we're coming towards the end of our time, which is totally up to you when we end.
It's up to both of us.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. The blocks of time on your
right. Yeah.
website are arbitrary.
Is there kind of more like a minimum that I need to reserve in my? But yeah, I don't really have. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
So again, yeah man,
stay with talking.
Yeah, stay with it. Hear it out. And that
it's kind of like damned if we do, damned if we don't is what I'm hearing from him. Like, you know, oh great, I finally get to have sex with a stupid bitch.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So the thing I absolutely crave and desire the most is something I have to get from the type of person I loathe. Man, this is so interesting.
And as long as you can stay in that self energy of like finding some understanding there and being okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I mean, that's so healing to me.
Yeah, you know, I have a decent amount of self energy right now. Like I could just keep riffing.
Yeah,
but when you remind me of it, it expands and kind of holds my part even more. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So
yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing is that this part is feeling held hostage to women.
Yeah.
And like he has to rely on them to get his needs met, but he hates them and he doesn't trust them, and they are like evil. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, you know, what does he need from you in the future? What does he want? How does he want to continue, like, or get from you?
Sorry, I'm just laughing because as soon as you said, "But what do you want from you?" I just heard in my head to fuck bitches.
Sure. Yeah. What can you do for him?
Yeah, exactly, which is not the same thing.
Right.
Well, I think what he's saying is like, can you, go actualize this?
Yeah.
Act on my desires instead of your other parts desires.
Yeah. And how do you respond to that?
Well, I kind of want to,
Yeah. Not a crazy idea.
Hell, yeah, no, I mean, I want to have sex for sure. And actually, I want to talk about this because I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. I was thinking about sex and authenticity. And I was thinking, like, some women are less intellectual. Some women are more intellectual. Some women are very, they like to live in their sexual parts and be very, like, kinky.
Mm-hmm.
And other women like to be playful and light and fun and watch movies and play video games. And, there's like all these different kinds of women, you know? And what I had always felt was that I have to decide between my sexual parts and my cute, romantic, playful parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is that that's not true. Because I was trying to figure out, like, well, how do I talk to women? Like, I don't even know how to talk to a woman I'm interested in because maybe she wants someone who's this way, maybe she wants someone who's that way. And which version of me is even authentic? I don't even know.
Yeah.
And so then I started to realize, like, well, maybe, and I want to hear your feedback on this. Like, maybe all my parts are authentic, and any combination of them is also authentic. And they don't have to all be up for me to be an authentic person. So, for instance, like if I was, let's say, like one of my, like a niece or nephew was over at my house and I was playing with them, my intellectual parts don't need to be up for me to have an authentic time, even though I'm a very intellectual person.
Right.
I could just have my 5-year-old up and have a completely authentic experience. And so in the same way, like if I were talking to a girl that was less intellectual, I could just go into my silly, fun, younger parts and just play with her,
Yeah.
And that would be authentic. Or if I met a girl and she was kind of kinky and sultry and had those seductive eyes, I could go into my kind of similar energy and just we could seduce each other,
Yeah.
And I don't know how all my parts feel about that. It feels a little ungrounded to be so flexible in who I am. Well, especially after believing I had to be a certain way my whole life.
You're not saying that you should just mimic whoever you see around you. You're saying that you can tap into parts that actually exist in you to show up in different ways in the world.
Yes, and that's like a hair's breadth distinction, but it's very real distinction, I think.
Yeah, and I think that in IFS that's being self-led versus being parts-led, basically. The self-led is you're deciding what to tap into.
That's so cool. Yeah, so that kind of opens me up and makes me feel safer with women because I feel like I can be whatever the situation calls for.
Right.
Because I'm such a multiplicitous person.
Yeah.
When I first had this concept yesterday or the day before, I thought it sounded a little like sociopathic or like.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's a big risk of that from the outside. That's how people might see IFS in general. Is like this has always been pathologized. So.
Oh, our multiplicity has been pathologized?
Right.
Yeah. It just seems a little sociopathic for me to like match myself to whatever woman I'm with. And in like Richard Schwartz's work, he talks about neo-exiles, which are parts of us that we exile in order to maintain relationships.
Okay.
So like I might exile my romantic part in order to be with a seductive woman.
Okay, yeah.
Who doesn't want any feelings involved.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of feeling like I could do that and feel fine about it. Like because I'm becoming so secure in myself, that would be okay with me. Not as a total lifestyle, but as like a temporary thing with this one person, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I guess I'm just afraid of being this like blank slate who just is whatever he needs to be. But we don't have to solve this right now, but I mean, if you have any more thoughts.
My only thought is that, you know, like I hear you and I can sympathize, empathize with that. Like, yeah, you don't want to just go with the wind kind of person.
Yeah.
And
I
on
have some kind of core identity. Yeah.
And on the other hand, like, what a strength, right? Like we're so flexible, we're so resilient. We have multiple personalities that we can tap into. Like, so, you know.
Yeah, it's like almost like I have this moral overlay still.
Sure. Yeah.
Where I'm judging my multiplicity and like scanning my multiplicity to make sure that it's ethical and good, which is, you know, that's fine. It's also kind of interesting, like the concept of authenticity when we have such different parts, because I have a part of me that's like an atheist. Right. I have a part of me that's still kind of Christian.
Right.
And I have an agnostic part who doesn't need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can act like all three of those things depending on who I'm talking to.
Right.
But it's all authentic to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Authenticity is a really difficult word, I think, to it just doesn't like or you could even say like, can you be not authentic?
Oh, I know. I don't know.
Like, I don't know either. And so it's, in a way, it's kind of one of these, like, is that even like falsifiable? Is this even a valid term for anything? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So I think it's usually just used as an insult generally.
Yeah.
Or kind of a righteous, I'm authentic, you're not. Here's what's wrong with you because you're not being authentic. And if you were just authentic, everything would be okay. It's like, okay.
Here's what I think it means. Like, because I'm an ENFP and I'm an Enneagram 4, and both of those highly value authenticity, right? And I'm just using those personality tests, even though I know that they don't really fully describe us further. But so I deeply value authenticity, and I think the reason for that is because I felt the lack of intimacy growing up. Mm-hmm. And I felt that the reason for that was that people weren't honest about their multiplicity. Mm-hmm. And they were just presenting managers and firefighters. And I wanted to know their exiles.
Yeah, yeah.
And have that real intimacy. So authenticity, in a big way, that's what it meant to me, you know, to be vulnerable and to let people see all your kinds of parts.
Yeah, intimacy.
Yeah. But I agree that like a protector that's hiding all the other parts is still an authentic part of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the same with like self versus parts. It's not like only people who are in self are people, you know. It's like
people. Yeah.
That's just a mode. It's just another mode of being.
I kind of love that we have self and parts. We have that universal, beautiful consciousness, but then we also have such unique, wonderful identities.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want one or the other. I'd want both.
Yeah, one or the other would either would be too boring or too chaotic.
Yeah. That's exactly right, man. He's so chaotic with no self.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have made it this far, I guarantee it. Yeah. Anyway.
How you feeling?
Gosh. Yeah. Delighted.
Great.
Such a wonderful conversation.
I think so.
Liberated, peaceful. A little bit of trepidation about exploring the possibilities of who I can be. Yeah. Curious what parts of me will blend when I find myself in situations with women. Will I try to fuck the shit out of them, or will I want to try to get them to love me, or will I just enjoy their presence from a place of self?
Or all of those things.
Yeah, probably all of them, which sounds extremely messy and not even worth it.
Keep checking in with those parts, and you'll the more you hear from them, the more informed your decisions will be, and it's kind of all all we can do.
Yeah, I mean, I already feel like we've tapped into a miraculous amount of information today.
It's great, man.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to end it here and hope to talk again?
Yeah, if you'd like to. I'm good with that.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
It's been freaking awesome, man. I feel so grateful, and
yeah, me too.
Really enjoy spending time with you, man. You have a great mind.
Thank you.
Heart,
you too.
Thanks. Yeah. I just appreciate your vocabulary as well. The way that you choose to say a lot of different things. I'm like, yes. Like you said, is that even unfalsifiable? I was like, or falsifiable? I'm like, come on, man. It's so
that's
good.
Funny. That's interesting. No, I think that's one of my biggest weaknesses is like, oh shit, I don't know how to use English, but appreciate it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That must be why you're so good at it, because you're always concerned about it.
Huh. Oh, well, parts.
All right, man.
Have a great day.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.